We need to talk. Now.
Not with her here.
They threw my 11-year-old daughter into a dumpster. Not an accident, not a stumble. They grabbed her, tossed her like trash, and laughed, thinking no one saw. But I did. I'm not your average suburban dad. I'm a retired boxer, a man who's taken down opponents and sold out arenas. When I stood up, I didn't call the police. I broke noses. I unraveled a corrupt homeowners association scam. I exposed their leader, a tyrant named Deborah Mills, and when I stormed her office, I found something so vile it shook me to my core. This wasn't about rules or lawns. This was war, and I made sure they'd never forget who they crossed. My name's Jack Carter, and I moved to Willow Creek, a quiet slice of suburban Ohio, for a fresh start. After my last fight in the ring and the death of my wife, Emily, a year ago, I wanted a place where my daughter, Lily, could grow up safe. Willow Creek seemed perfect: manicured lawns, kids on bikes, and mailboxes stuffed with glossy HOA newsletters. I thought we'd left chaos behind. I was wrong. Beneath the surface of this picture-perfect neighborhood lurked something rotten, and it targeted my little girl. Lily's 11, all heart, the kind of kid who picks up litter on her way to the bus stop because she says it makes the street smile. She got that from her mom. Every morning, I'd watch her from the kitchen window, coffee in hand, as she dragged our green recycling bin to the curb. That morning was no different. She was out there by 7:15, humming to herself, her ponytail bouncing as she wrestled the bin. I was in the garage, tinkering with a busted lawnmower, when I heard her giggle. It was pure, unguarded. For a moment, I let myself believe we'd found peace. Then I saw the white SUV. It rolled up slowly, too deliberate. No markings, just tinted windows and a low hum. Two men climbed out, both in crisp black polos with compliance team stitched in bold letters. No names, no official badges, just muscle and attitude. Behind them was Deborah Mills, the HOA president, striding down the sidewalk like she owned the asphalt. Her auburn hair was pulled tight, her navy blazer pristine, and she clutched a tablet like it was a scepter. I'd met her once before, when she'd knocked on my door to lecture me about my mailbox not being regulation height. Her voice was sharp, like she was scolding a child, not a grown man. I'd bitten my tongue then, for Lily's sake. But this time, she'd gone too far. I dropped my wrench and stepped outside just as one of the meanest squat guy with a buzzkid yelled, "Unauthorized activity." Before I could react, he grabbed Lily's arm and shoved her hard. She stumbled backward, tripping into the recycling bin. It tipped over with a crash, and she fell inside, her head smacking the rim. The other guy, tall and wiry with a smirk, laughed. Deborah didn't flinch. She just tapped her tablet, muttering about violations. My vision went red. I was across the lawn in seconds. Buzzcut didn't see me coming. My fist connected with his jaw, and he hit the ground like a sack of bricks. The tall guy froze, fumbling for a radio that didn't work. I grabbed his collar, slammed him against their SUV, and he crumpled, gasping. Deborah raised a hand, her voice dripping with indignation. "Mr. Carter, this is assault. Your daughter violated Section 4 unapproved juvenile activity." I turned on her, my voice low and steady. "You're not enforcers. You're thugs. Touch my kid again, and you'll need more than a lawyer." She stepped back, her heels clicking on the pavement, but her eyes burned with defiance. "You'll regret this," she hissed, then stormed off, her lackeys groaning behind her. I pulled Lily from the bin, her face streaked with dirt, a scrape on her elbow. She wasn't crying, but her voice shook. "Dad, why'd they do that?" I clenched my jaw. "Because they thought they could." I carried her inside, my pulse pounding. This wasn't about recycling bins or HOA rules. This was about power, petty, cruel power. I'd spent years in the ring, facing men who wanted to break me. Deborah Mills was no different. She'd just declared war, and I was ready to fight. By noon, my phone was buzzing. A neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, texted me. "Jack, check this out. It's viral." Someone had caught the whole thing on a doorbell camera. Lily's fall, my punches, Deborah's smug face. The video, titled, "HOA Goons Toss Kid, Get Wrecked by Boxer Dad," was spreading fast, racking up 500,000 views in hours. Comments flooded in, "Hero Dad. That woman's a monster. Where's the justice?" I stared at the screen, fury mixing with disbelief. The world was watching, and Deborah was unraveling. She didn't take it quietly. By afternoon, she was marching down Maple Drive, tablet in hand, screaming at neighbors about slander and illegal recordings. She pounded on the Wilsons' door, demanding they delete their footage. Mr. Wilson just shut his curtains. I stepped onto my porch, arms crossed, as she spotted me. "Enjoy your moment, Carter," she spat. "Lawsuits last longer than viral videos." I met her gaze. So does truth. She stormed off, but the cracks in her empire were showing. Neighbors started talking. They sent me photos, emails, even handwritten notes about Deborah's reign of terror fines for unapproved flower beds, threats over kids' chalk drawings, fees for excessive mailbox wear. None of it added up. The HOA wasn't a board. It was Deborah's personal fiefdom. There hadn't been an election in years. The treasurer had vanished, and anyone who questioned her got vandalism or worse. She wasn't just a bully, she was running a scam. I called an old friend, Tom Rivera, a former state investigator who loved dismantling fraud. "Jack," he said, voice crackling with excitement, "this isn't an HOA. It's a racket. Keep digging." That night, I pored over the HOA's website. It was a mess, no legal disclosures, just a Venmo link labeled compliance fees. Lily wandered in, her eyes heavy. "Dad, are we leaving?" I knelt down, firm. "No, sweetheart. We're staying. And we're fighting." Deborah's office was a squat brick building on Elm Street, more like a foreclosed storefront than a legitimate operation. No signs, just blackout curtains and a security camera glaring at the street. I waited until dusk, parked a block away, and slipped around back. A flimsy side door, locked with a cheap padlock, gave way with a tug. Inside was a hoarder's dream, boxes of files labeled non-compliant residents, fines for things like unharmonious fence colors or excessive dog barking. A laptop sat open on a cluttered desk. I scrolled through it. Payment records, notes on neighbors' vulnerabilities, even a file on Lily marked "Problem Child Monitor" closely. My stomach turned. This wasn't an HOA. It was a surveillance state. I snapped photos of everything. Then I heard her voice shrill, unmistakable outside. "Who's in there?" I bolted through the side door, vaulting a fence as her car screeched around the corner. I was gone before she could spot me, but I had what I needed: proof. Deborah thought fear was her weapon. I just armed myself with something stronger. I called a neighborhood meeting, stapling flyers to every mailbox. 7 p.m., Community Park. Bring questions. By 6:30, the pavilion was packed, neighbors who'd never spoken now clutching my evidence packets, whispering in disbelief. Deborah showed up, her blazer crisp, her smile venomous. "This is unauthorized," she barked. "No quorum, no approval." I held up a folder. "Neither was your extortion scheme." I laid it all out: fake fines, forged signatures, threats targeting the vulnerable. The crowd murmured, then roared. Mrs. Patel stood, shaking, holding a $200 fine for unapproved porch lights. Mr. Jenkins waved a letter threatening eviction over a cracked driveway. Deborah's smile faltered. "These are lies," she snapped. "Fabrications from a violent man." I held up a screenshot from her laptop. "Mr. Jenkins pushover. Increase fines." The crowd gasped. Jenkins' wife stood, tears in her eyes. "You terrorized us." Deborah's voice cracked. "You need order?" "I gave you order." I stepped closer. "You gave us fear. And it's over." The crowd surged, phones recording, voices rising. Deborah fled, her heels stumbling on the grass. The next morning, the video of the meeting was everywhere. HOA tyrant exposed by Boxer Dad. My inbox overflowed reporters, lawyers, neighbors from other towns with their own Deborahs. By noon, 2 police cars pulled into Willow Creek. Officer Hayes, a no-nonsense cop I'd met at a community cookout, stepped out. Deborah was in her driveway, dressed in a cream suit, still playing queen. "This is harassment," she shrieked as Hayes approached. He held up a warrant. "You're not a legal HOA, MS. Mills. You've been collecting money under false pretenses. That's fraud. And shoving a child? That's child endangerment." Her jaw dropped. "You can't," he cut her off. "Hands behind your back." As they cuffed her, neighbors gathered. Some filmed, some clapped, others just watched, stunned. Deborah's empire crumbled as she was loaded into the cruiser, still shouting about lawsuits. The fallout was swift. Her files went to the DA. Her compliance team turned on her. One had a rap sheet, the other took a plea deal. The Elm Street office was raided, revealing $28,000 in cash and shredded documents. Deborah faced 7 charges, including fraud and impersonation. She'd built her kingdom on silence, and I'd torn it down with truth. The neighborhood changed. We held another meeting, this time with coffee and hope. No one asked me to lead, but they asked me to speak. I told them what I'd learned. Fear thrives in silence, but courage grows in community. We formed a resident council, no presidents, just neighbors. We rewrote the Relesno fines without a vote. No threats, no secrets. Lily painted a mural on the park's wall, a girl standing tall, a broken dumpster behind her, and the words, "We stand together." I watched her unveil it, my hand on her shoulder. "You proud?" I asked. She grinned. "It's my best yet." Willow Creek wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Kids played late, unafraid. Mrs. Patel's porch lights glowed brightly. The Jenskins laughed on their cracked driveway. Peace wasn't a gift, it was earned. I wasn't just a fighter anymore. I was a father, a neighbor, a man who'd learned that the hardest battles aren't won with fists, but with voices refusing to stay quiet. This story isn't just mine. It's for every kid told to shrink, every neighbor bullied into silence. Deborah Mills wasn't unique. There are tyrants like her everywhere, wielding petty power like a club. But they forget, real strength lies in standing up, in speaking out, in protecting your own. We didn't just take down one bully, we rebuilt a community. And that's a victory no one can take away. What do you think? Have you faced a bully like Deborah, someone who used power to intimidate? Was violence the answer, or did words hit harder? Share your story in the comments. Tell us where you stand on fighting injustice, and let's start a conversation. Your voice matters, and someone out there needs to hear it.